"If you ever loved me, help us drop these charges against Mom," my wife sobbed. I ended our marriage on the spot. 6 months later, they tried blackmailing me. I never thought I'd be sitting across from a divorce attorney at 34, watching my marriage crumble because of a woman who wasn't even my wife. Yet here I was, clutching a manila folder full of bank statements, security camera screenshots, and police reports, all evidence against the woman who single-handedly destroyed everything I'd built. My mother-in-law, Diane. My soon-to-be ex-wife, Jessica, had always been blind to her mother's manipulation. But I never imagined she'd choose Diane over me, especially after what happened. The theft, the lies, the destruction that followed when I finally stood up for myself. Looking back, I should have seen it coming. The red flags were there from the beginning, waving frantically in my face while I smiled and played the understanding husband. When Jessica and I first met 6 years ago, she mentioned her mother was going through a rough patch. That rough patch, I later discovered, had been going on for nearly a decade. Diane had burned through her late husband's life insurance payout within 18 months of his death. $300,000 gone on luxury cruises, designer shopping sprees, and a gambling habit she hid from everyone but her creditors. By the time I entered the picture, Diane had already cycled through living with Jessica's two older siblings, burning bridges by stealing, lying, and manipulating until they'd finally cut her off. Jessica was her last resort, her final enabler. And Jessica, sweet, loyal Jessica, couldn't say no to the woman who'd raised her. "She's my mother," Jessica would say whenever I questioned Diane's latest financial emergency. "What am I supposed to do? Let her be homeless." The early years of our relationship were punctuated by Diane's constant crises. Her car needed repairs. Her rent was late. Her electricity was about to be shut off. Each time, Jessica would transfer money from her account without hesitation. I bit my tongue, telling myself it wasn't my place to interfere. But when we got engaged, I knew we needed clear boundaries. I suggested a joint account for household expenses while maintaining separate personal accounts, a decision that would later save me from complete financial ruin. Jessica agreed, and we also signed a prenup at my insistence. At the time, she'd laughed. "We're never going to need this," she'd said, signing the papers, "but if it makes you feel better, sure." That prenup was the smartest decision I ever made. 2 years into our marriage, Diane lost her apartment. The landlord evicted her for non-payment, a fact she conveniently omitted when she called Jessica in tears, claiming her building had plumbing issues and needed to be vacated for repairs. "It's just for a few weeks," Jessica promised as she helped her mother move boxes into our guest room. "She'll find a new place soon." Those weeks turned into months. Months during which our grocery bills mysteriously doubled. Months during which my expensive cologne disappeared bottle by bottle. Months during which our peaceful home became a battleground of passive-aggressive comments and boundary violations. Diane would borrow Jessica's credit card for emergencies, which somehow always involved department stores and online shopping. When confronted, she'd burst into tears, calling me controlling and cruel for questioning her. "Do you know what it's like to lose everything?" she'd sob to Jessica while shooting me venomous glares. "To have no one in the world who cares if you live or die." And Jessica would comfort her, apologize to her, and later tell me I needed to be more understanding. The first time I caught Diane red-handed was 6 months into her stay. I came home early from work with a migraine and found her in our bedroom, rifling through Jessica's jewelry box. When confronted, she claimed she was just admiring the pieces. But the following weekend, Jessica couldn't find her grandmother's pearl earrings, a family heirloom that had somehow disappeared. "They must be misplaced," Diane suggested, wearing an expression of innocent concern that made my skin crawl. The earrings never reappeared. Neither did the cash I kept in my desk drawer or the vintage watch my father had given me before he died. Small things, easily explained away as misplaced or lost in the shuffle of daily life. But I knew. And deep down, I think Jessica knew too. She just couldn't face it. Everything changed the day I installed security cameras. I didn't tell Jessica or Diane. I didn't make a big show of it. I simply had them installed while both women were out shopping together, another mother-daughter bonding activity that inevitably ended with Jessica's credit card taking the hit. The cameras were small, unobtrusive, and connected to an app on my phone. I placed one in our bedroom, One in the hallway, one in the living room, and one pointed directly at the small safe in my home office where I kept our emergency cash, important documents, and Jessica's more valuable jewelry. The safe had a digital keypad, and only Jessica and I knew the combination. It contained roughly $30,000 in cash, our emergency fund, built slowly over years of careful saving. I'd warned Jessica never to share the combination with anyone, not even her mother. Especially not her mother. She'd agreed, though she'd called me paranoid. I wasn't paranoid enough. 3 weeks after installing the cameras, I received an alert on my phone while at work. Motion detected in the home office. I opened the app and watched in real time as Diane methodically entered the combination to our safe. My stomach dropped as I realized what was happening. She knew the code. Jessica had told her. I watched, frozen in horror, as Diane emptied the safe. She took everything, the cash, Jessica's grandmother's remaining jewelry, even our passports and birth certificates. She stuffed it all into a large purse, then casually walked out, stopping in our bedroom to grab a few more items from Jessica's jewelry box. My hands shook as I called Jessica, who didn't answer. Then I called Diane, who picked up on the third ring. "Where are you?" I asked, struggling to keep my voice steady. "Out running errands," she replied smoothly. "Do you need something from the store?" The casual lie sent a surge of rage through me. "Put everything back, Diane. I know what you took. I'm watching you on the security cameras right now." The line went silent for a moment. Then she laughed, a cold sound that sent chills down my spine. "I don't know what you're talking about. Jessica gave me permission to borrow some cash for shopping. Ask her yourself." She hung up. I immediately tried Jessica again, who finally answered. "Did you give your mother the combination to our safe?" I demanded, heart pounding. "Well, yes," Jessica admitted. "She needed to get some documents for her insurance paperwork. Why are you so upset?" "She just emptied it, all of it, $30,000, your jewelry, everything." Jessica's response still haunts me. "You're exaggerating. Mom wouldn't do that." I sent her the video footage. She went silent, then whispered, "There must be some explanation. I'll talk to her." But when I got home that evening, it was clear that talking had accomplished nothing. The safe remained empty. Diane was nowhere to be found, and Jessica was furious at me. "How dare you install cameras without telling me?" she shouted, her face flushed with anger. "You've invaded our privacy. You've been spying on us. Your mother stole $30,000 from us, and you're mad about the cameras." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Did she return any of it?" Jessica looked away. "She says she's just borrowing it. She has some investment opportunity. She's going to pay us back double." I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "And you believe that after everything she's done? She's my mother, and I'm your husband. When are you going to start putting our family first?" We went back and forth like this for hours. Jessica defending the indefensible, me growing increasingly desperate as I realized the money might be gone for good. Finally, exhausted, I delivered an ultimatum. Either Diane returned every cent and found somewhere else to live, or I would file a police report. Jessica's face went white. "You wouldn't. Try me." That night, she slept in the guest room with Diane, who had mysteriously reappeared during our argument. I lay awake in our bed, wondering how my marriage had come to this. How the woman I loved could so blindly enable someone who was destroying us. The next morning, I woke to find my car windows smashed, glass scattered across the driveway. On the driver's seat was a note in Diane's handwriting. "Be careful who you threaten." That was the moment I knew there was no going back. I called the police immediately. I filed a report for the theft and vandalism, showed them the security footage, handed over the threatening note. The officers were sympathetic, but warned me this was likely just the beginning of a messy family dispute. They were right. When Diane was brought in for questioning, she wept and claimed I had given her permission to borrow the money. That I was abusive and controlling, monitoring Jessica's every move with those cameras. That she was just trying to help her daughter escape from me. Jessica backed her up completely. My own wife stood in our living room, looked me in the eye, and told the detective that I was lying about the theft, that I was the one with gambling problems, that I was trying to frame her innocent mother. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. This woman I'd shared a bed with for 3 years, who'd sworn to stand by me through better or worse, was now gaslighting me to protect a thief. The only thing that saved me was the footage. Clear, unmistakable evidence of Diane entering the combination, emptying the safe, and later smashing my car windows. The police arrested her that afternoon on charges of grand theft and vandalism. Jessica was hysterical. She screamed at me as they led her mother away, called me every vile name imaginable. Then she grabbed her purse and stormed out, presumably to bail her mother out of jail. I changed the locks that night. When Jessica returned the following day to collect her things, she wasn't alone. Diane was with her, along with Jessica's brother, the same brother who had previously cut Diane off for similar behavior. Now they stood united against me, the monster who had dared to hold Diane accountable. "You need to drop the charges," Jessica said coldly, "and you need to replace everything Mom borrowed." I laughed, actually laughed. "Borrowed? Is that what we're calling theft now?" "I told you she had my permission," Jessica insisted. "This is all a misunderstanding. A $30,000 misunderstanding, plus my car windows, the missing jewelry, everything else she's stolen over the past year." Jessica's brother stepped forward, his face inches from mine. "Look, just drop the charges. We'll figure out the money situation later. Family problems should stay in the family." I stepped back, suddenly tired, so very tired of all of it. "She's not my family, not anymore, and honestly, Jessica, I'm not sure you are either." The hurt that flashed across my wife's face nearly broke my resolve. But then Diane spoke up, her voice dripping with fake concern. "See, Jesse, I told you he never really loved you. He's just like your father, selfish to the core." In that moment, something inside me hardened. I looked at the three of them standing against me and realized this was a losing battle. Jessica had made her choice, and it wasn't me. It had never been me. "You have 20 minutes to get your essential items," I told Jessica. "Anything else will have to wait until the divorce proceedings. My lawyer will be contacting you." "Divorce?" Jessica's voice cracked. "You can't be serious." "Dead serious. And Diane, if you set foot on this property again, I'll have you arrested for trespassing, on top of the theft and vandalism charges you're already facing." I walked away, locked myself in our bedroom, and listened as they rummaged through the house. I didn't check what they took. At that point, it didn't matter anymore. Nothing material mattered. My marriage was over, killed by a woman who had spent years perfecting the art of manipulation, and by a wife who couldn't see she was being used. The weeks that followed were a blur of legal meetings, police statements, and sleepless nights. Jessica moved in with her brother while Diane mysteriously acquired a new apartment, furnished with brand new everything. I didn't have to wonder where the money had gone. Jessica filed for divorce 2 weeks after moving out. Her petition claimed emotional abuse and financial control on my part. She wanted half of everything, including my retirement accounts and the house we'd bought together. Her lawyer clearly hadn't read our prenup. My attorney assured me the agreement was solid. The separate accounts we'd maintained would remain separate. The joint account had been emptied the day after Diane's arrest, but that was a relatively small loss compared to what could have happened. The house would likely need to be sold, with the proceeds split based on our contributions to the mortgage, which had been roughly 70-30 in my favor. The criminal case against Diane moved forward despite multiple attempts by Jessica and her family to pressure me into dropping the charges. Anonymous calls in the middle of the night. Nasty emails from shared friends who'd only heard their side of the story. Even a tearful visit from Jessica's grandmother, begging me to reconsider. "Diane has problems, we all know that," the elderly woman had said, her hands trembling around her teacup. "But prison won't help her. She needs therapy, not punishment." "What she needs is consequences," I replied gently, "something she's apparently never had to face." The harassment escalated when Diane's court date approached. One night, I woke to the sound of breaking glass. Someone had thrown a brick through my living room window. Another night, I returned from work to find my front door spray-painted with the word liar. I installed more cameras, filed police reports, started documenting everything in case I needed a restraining order. Through it all, one question kept me awake at night. How had I not seen this coming? How had I missed the signs that Jessica would always choose her mother over me, over herself, over the truth itself? The answer, when it finally came to me, was simple and devastating. I had seen the signs. I'd just chosen to ignore them, believing that my love for Jessica would be enough to overcome her toxic loyalty to Diane. I'd been wrong. 3 months after our separation, while the divorce was still grinding through the legal system, I received a call from Jessica. She was sobbing so hard I could barely understand her. "I need to see you," she managed between gasps. "Please, it's important." Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop near my office. When I arrived, I barely recognized her. She'd lost weight, her clothes hanging loosely on her frame. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, and her hands shook as she clutched her coffee cup. "I made a terrible mistake," she whispered when I sat down. "I should have believed you. I should have stood by you." For a moment, my heart lifted. Was this the awakening I'd been hoping for? Had she finally seen through her mother's manipulation? Then she continued. "Mom's in real trouble now. The DA won't drop the charges, and her lawyer says she could face actual jail time. We need your help, Ryan. Please, if you ever loved me, help us." And just like that, my brief hope shattered. This wasn't about recognizing the truth. This was about saving Diane, again. "What exactly do you want me to do?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "Drop the charges. Tell them it was a misunderstanding, that you gave her permission to take the money." Jessica reached across the table, her fingers brushing mine. "I know things can't go back to how they were between us, but we could at least end things amicably." I pulled my hand away. "You want me to perjure myself to save your mother from consequences she absolutely deserves. After she stole our savings, vandalized my car, harassed me for months, and ruined our marriage." "She's getting help now," Jessica insisted. "Real help, therapy, financial counseling. She's finally admitted she has a problem. Too little, too late. Please, Ryan, I'll do anything. I'll drop my claims in the divorce. You can keep the house. Just help my mom." I studied her face, this woman I'd once loved enough to promise forever to. She wasn't evil. She was damaged, raised by a master manipulator to put Diane's needs above everyone else's, including her own. In some ways, Jessica was as much a victim as I was. But that didn't mean I had to keep participating in the dysfunction. "I'm sorry, Jessica, I truly am, but your mother made her choices and now she has to face the consequences, just like we all do." Her expression hardened, the vulnerability vanishing in an instant. "Fine, have it your way, but don't think this is over." She stormed out, leaving her coffee untouched. That was the last time we spoke directly. The next day, my work email was flooded with messages from an anonymous account. Attached were photos, private, intimate photos Jessica and I had taken early in our relationship. Along with them was a simple message: "Drop the charges or these go to everyone at your company." The blackmail attempt was Diane's final miscalculation. I forwarded everything to my attorney and the police, adding extortion to the growing list of charges against her. Within hours, both Jessica and Diane were brought in for questioning. In the end, the photos were never leaked. The extortion attempt only strengthened the case against Diane and implicated Jessica as an accomplice. It was the final nail in the coffin of any sympathy I might have still harbored for either of them. The divorce was finalized 6 months after our separation. Thanks to the prenup and Jessica's increasing legal troubles, it was relatively straightforward. I kept the house and my retirement accounts. She kept her personal accounts and what remained of her dignity. Diane was sentenced to 3 years in prison for grand theft, vandalism, and extortion. Jessica received probation for her role in the blackmail attempt. Neither showed any remorse at their sentencing hearings. To them, I was still the villain of the story, the cruel, unforgiving man who had torn their family apart. Some days I almost believed them. Had I been too harsh, too uncompromising? Should I have given Diane another chance for Jessica's sake, if nothing else? Then I would remember the emptied safe, the smashed windows, the terrifying escalation of harassment that had made me feel unsafe in my own home, and I would know with absolute certainty that I had done the right thing. 1 year after Jessica moved out, I finally sold the house. Too many bad memories haunted its rooms. I bought a smaller place across town, changed jobs, and slowly began rebuilding my life. I've been on a few dates, though nothing serious. Trust doesn't come easily anymore. I find myself watching for the red flags I once ignored, the little signs of entitlement, of boundary violations, of divided loyalties. Maybe that makes me overly cautious, or maybe it just makes me wiser. Last week I ran into Jessica's brother at the grocery store. He avoided eye contact, hurrying past me with his cart. But his wife stopped, touching my arm gently. "I just want you to know," she said quietly, "that we've cut ties with Diane too, after everything that happened." Well, Jessica finally opened her eyes. Too late for you too, obviously, but at least she's free now. I nodded, unsure what to say. Part of me felt vindicated that Jessica had finally seen the truth. A smaller, pettier part was irritated that it had taken losing everything, me, her reputation, nearly her freedom, before she'd been willing to face reality. But mostly I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no regret. just the quiet recognition that some people are poison no matter how much you love them. And sometimes the only way to survive is to walk away. I still think about Jessica occasionally. I wonder if she's healing, if she's learning to build healthy boundaries. I hope she is. Despite everything, I don't wish her ill. But I will never again set myself on fire to keep someone else warm. That lesson, at least, was worth the price I paid for it. As for our $30,000, it's long gone, spent on Diane's luxury apartment, designer clothes, and whatever else she bought during those frantic weeks before her arrest. I've made peace with that loss. Money can be replaced. Time, trust, and love cannot. Sometimes the most expensive lessons are the ones we need most desperately to learn.